Leeds United are set for a big clash with Southampton when technically we can get promoted automatically, or we can massively set the tone for the playoffs ahead. And Daniel Farke has had his press conference, and I'm not going to do a full preview in this, but I'm just going to run through what we can imply from the press conference and who might be making their league start debut thing in this game. In terms of team news, there was a pretty hefty list. Bamford was a big question mark. He's not been able to be in full training, and that is because he was expected back earlier, but he had a little bit of bruising on his knee that they looked at it and thought there's no real damage underneath, but it turns out it's affecting the ligament, which means that he's unable to fully stretch, fully bend, make sure that everything's okay. And if someone isn't able to move to the best of their ability, especially in a match that might not mean something, you don't want to risk their long-term health, especially when we've got the playoffs coming up. It's a similar situation for Connor Roberts, with him being a pretty big doubt. He's been in a little bit of training, but not full team training consistently, which is a problem. Dan James has been definitely ruled out, and it's the same for Pascal Stroke and Stuart Dallas, as it has been for a while. Sorry if my speaking sounds a little bit weird. I was at the dentist this morning. They ran out of anesthetic before the end of the treatment, so I can just feel two needle feelings over here, and it's really bad. Yeah, it makes sense with the injury talk that we will not really want to risk players here. Yes, we need a result. Yes, a result will be absolutely perfect, and we're still going to push for that. But in the case of Patrick Bamford, for example, and Connor Roberts, you don't want to injure them further where you wouldn't be able to use them in the playoffs at all. That would just be the worst of all worlds. So that means that I have a predicted lineup going into this match of Illan Meslier in goal. Obviously, he had a pretty bad game against QPR, but at the same time, still a better option than Darlow, still a better option than Klaassen. In defence, I've gone for a little bit of a change. I've gone Archie Gray at right back with Rodon, Ampadu and Firpo finishing off that back line. Farke said that he'd done a little bit of work on sort of defensive shape and structure, but I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. In midfield, Gray moving out means that Kamara moves back in as that pairing alongside Ilya Gruev to give a little bit more control of the midfield, rather than that goal of just progress. A little bit more control was ultimately what we lost against Southampton and why we lost that game 3-1, so we will absolutely need that now. The line of three behind the centre forward is going to be Crescencio Somerville, Jorginho Rutter, and Willy Gnonto. They weren't at their best against QPR, but hell, who are you going to pick instead? Jaden Anthony as a winger? Maybe, but I don't think he's really proven himself to take Somerville's spot because he plays on the left-hand side. Number 10, maybe there's a Gelhardt, but who knows? And then up top, I have gone with, as you probably guessed, Mateo Joseph. And there are a few reasons that it has to be Mateo Joseph as the centre forward. First up, Piru's movement isn't necessarily right for the team. He sits significantly deeper than Mateo Joseph does, which, fine enough if you're playing at number 10, but if you're playing as a number 9, it doesn't work in the slightest. In a podcast with Just Your Football Show the other week, last week, I'd put together an infographic of the average position of the last 10 shots of Bamford and Joseph and Piru. Bamford and Joseph had both taken all of their shots within the 18-yard box. For Piru, 6 of them were outside, which sort of says the range that he likes to work at, and that Joseph Bamford positioning is significantly better for the system. In addition to that, we need to be honest. Now is a decent time to take some risks. Not in terms of players' fitness, but in terms of testing someone out. Mateo Joseph hasn't started a game in the Championship, and as far as we know, this could be a dead rubber. As long as we push all throughout the rest of the side and go forward and attack them and try and win the game, that's all we can do. Ipswich get a single point, it's done. So it's not a bad time to give Mateo Joseph a run out and see, okay, so how are you starting a game? And I think it'll be okay. He provides us with a genuine number 9 in terms of positioning, in terms of movement, in terms of his finishing, and ultimately it is the perfect environment to give him a go. So I think Daniel Farke will. Piru rotated off to the bench. He can come on later if we desperately need a goal or something. Maybe Bamford can come off the bench because it's a very late call on him, but I think Mateo Joseph is without a doubt the right call there. He also discussed the reaction to the QPR match and said the squad were very disappointed and there were a lot of analysis sessions earlier in the week to discuss what went wrong, how it went wrong, and how we can change the team based on that. And I'm sure we will see adaptations to the tactics, to our shape, to everything, to make sure everything works. Later on in the press conference, he did lament the lack of experience in the squad because it's a very, very young side, but said he was still backing his players to the hilt. There is a chance that we'll mix it up, he said, in terms of maybe changing the lineup. But I think it'll change a little bit to what I've said purely because that's how we both keep the injured players fit and give players a chance in positions where they're worth a go. And in addition to that, he said that they were especially targeting defensive work in training, which is huge because we conceded 4 against QPR. And if you do that against Southampton, you're in big trouble, especially with the playoffs around the corner. Targeting the defence is a must. But in addition to all of that, he dived into a lot of big picture stuff. He said that he doesn't feel like the players have let him down because he very specifically discussed it being a long-term thing here. He discussed how, I'm going to find the specific quote if I can, looking at the start of the season, looking at August and how August was horrible and we lost a lot of players, and how once he signed the contract at the club, he was like, oh, that's a worse situation than I thought that was. But we're in a good spot by comparison. We're at 90 points, which if you say that at the end of August, we are guaranteed playoffs, comfortably 3rd place, and we might have a chance of going up on the final day, you would have snapped his hand off at that. The fact that he has overperformed for the majority of the season doesn't mean that you can just switch off and say, well, you achieved a lot of big goals, but not the biggest, so off you fuck. That's stupid. We all know that's stupid. In addition to that, he said that his ultimate goal at Leeds United is that he wants to make sure that we are an established Premier League side, keeping us consistently in the Premier League. That means for years and years and years on end, rather than dropping out and then dropping in. He doesn't want to pull the Norwich, and that's why he went for a long-term contract at the club. And he said that the club isn't the end product, and that also links to the long-term contract, because if we're not the end product, we've got a lot of youth players and we can grow. And he might have said that we didn't quite have the experience that he wanted. That comes with time, and that comes with coaching. And if he can do that for multiple years, we will be completely fine. Football doesn't end after 1 year. If we don't get promoted at the end of this season, it's not, the world is done, we're finished, it's gone. The club is being burned to the ground, set Elland Road on fire. No, that's not the case. The way he put it was, I don't want to be promoted to the Premier League and then relegated with financial problems. I want to bring success to this club with sustainability. That means we have to be patient. We still have a chance. And that is what we need to focus on. There's a chance, but even if it doesn't happen this season, let's be patient, because football isn't a one-season story. Football is an odyssey, a journey that we all go on. And yeah, we have to hope that it ends with winning trophies and titles, but they're not the end of the story either. It keeps on going. But let's hope that this season's story ends in a positive manner. Ultimately, though, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below whether you think Mateo Joseph should be starting, whether you'd stick with Piru, what you think will happen on the final day of the season. Like the video if you enjoyed it, that's always massively appreciated, and subscribe. Even become a channel member. All of that revenue right now is going to Prostate Cancer UK. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. I will see you later. Oh, smiling hurts. Do not like that. Ow.